Hey guys, welcome to Bible in the Barn on the Fire and Hammer Project. My name is Mike, and I'm truly grateful you're here. I have a sure and living word for you today from Isaiah chapter 45. If you saw yesterday's episode, this is going to sound really familiar to you because it's essentially a doubling down on God's sovereignty in a way that makes folks feel, well, a little uncomfortable sometimes. Let's just start by jumping in and reading the text together. We're in Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, where we read, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create calamity. I, the Lord, do all these things. Now, we have a tendency to assume that if God is truly at work, that life should feel clearer and easier. Though obedience should narrow uncertainty and faithfulness should reduce friction in our lives. And when disruption does come, we instinctively look for explanations that protect our sense of order. But scripture here again does not share that instinct. And in Isaiah chapter 45, the prophet presses directly against some of our most comfortable assumptions about how God works. These words are spoken into exile. Jerusalem has fallen, the temple is destroyed, God's people are living under foreign rule. And in this chapter, the Lord names his chosen instrument of deliverance, a guy named Cyrus of Persia, a pagan king who does not know him. And that context matters. Isaiah 45 is not poetry detached from history. It's theology spoken into collapse. And verse 7 functions as a foundational claim. There is no part of history, light or dark, peaceful or catastrophic, operating outside the Lord's rule. The Hebrew word translated calamity here is ra. In this context, it does not mean moral evil. Scripture is very clear that God is not the author of sin, but ra does mean real distress, real disruption, real judgment. And Isaiah is not softening that reality. He's locating it here for us. Notice the structure, light and darkness, peace and calamity. Each pair is claimed by the same voice. God does not say he merely permits these things. He says, I do all these things. Isaiah is dismantling a dualistic worldview. The idea that God handles the good while chaos handles the rest. Scripture simply does not allow for that division. Alec Motyer observes that Isaiah's concern here is not to explain suffering, but to establish lordship. If calamity lies outside God's sovereignty, then history is fractured and hope is fragile. But if calamity lies within God's rule, then even judgment is not meaningless. Oswald calls this thinking straight out idolatry at its core, the belief that multiple powers govern reality. Isaiah insists here there's only one, and this theme runs throughout all of Scripture. Joseph can look back on betrayal and imprisonment and say, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Job is never told why he suffers, only that his suffering is not outside God's knowledge. And Lamentations declares that both woe and well-being proceed from the mouth of the Most High. And above all, the cross stands as the clearest example. The darkest event in history becomes the very means of redemption. Not because God was absent, but because he was at work in ways that no one could yet see. All right. So here are the three things that you don't want to miss in this passage today. Number one, Isaiah 45:7 is not abstract theology. This is God speaking into real history, exile, judgment, political upheaval, and insisting that none of it has slipped outside his rule. This verse was forged in collapse, not comfort. Second, calamity does not mean God commits moral evil, but it does mean he governs real suffering. That word ra, it refers to distress, disruption, and judgment. Isaiah is not protecting us from the weight of that word. He's protecting us from the lie that hardship means that God is absent. And third, the purpose of this verse is not explanation, it's formation. God does not tell his people why calamity comes. He tells them who is Lord when it does. This passage trains trust, not certainty. It forms obedience that does not depend on clarity. Okay, those are the three things that you don't want to miss, and here's the one big takeaway. God does not cease to be Lord when peace disappears. There are seasons, many of us know them, some of us are going through one right now, when life feels faithfully lived and yet profoundly disorienting. You're doing what you know to do, you're praying, you're in the word with discipline, you're obeying, and still clarity doesn't come. Not because God is distant, but because he is forming something deeper than answers. And the question that scripture leaves us with is not whether God will explain himself, but whether we will trust him when he does not. Hey, I hope this encouraged you today. If it did, please like, share, and subscribe just to help get more people studying scripture with diligence and precision. And also be sure to check out the full passage and deeper studies over on Patreon and Substack at Fire and Hammer Project. We're building a community of people over there who fellowship and grow through disciplined submission to the text together. We're walking through entire books of the Bible, one verse at a time. And we also have a book club, not to collect authors, but to deepen our love for and handling of Scripture. We'd love to see you over there. It's going to be a great year. Links are below. Thanks for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. Until I see you again, keep standing, contend earnestly, and endure well.